Good evening, everybody.
Hi.
Kia ora.
How are we all?
Great.
We're doing good. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to The Collective. You are joining myself, Sean Ackland, and our esteemed panel, Paul Barlow, Bree Elliott, and tonight's very special guest, National Treasure, Tanya Waikato.
He only said that to get me to come on the show. We'll take it. Good everyone.
I sent you the opening script. How are we going, Tanya? It's been a busy week for you.
Yeah, I'm so glad that this is the last week of Mahi. I'm going to be honest. It's been a massive year, and even the last few weeks have been huge, been really full on with us doing Te Narangi Rangatira. So I'm looking forward to a holiday.
It will be very, very well earned. Being obviously many of our regular viewers would be privy to the work you've been doing in the community. What's the number as of today in terms of schools that have committed to the Te Tiriti obligations?
So we're sitting at 1,803 schools as of our last update. There have been a few more that have come in on a Sunday, which is still crazy, but we are probably going to do the next update tomorrow. So we're sitting at around 72% of all schools in Aotearoa. And it's still going, which is surprising for me because I know this is the last week of school for most of the schools that are still going and heaps have already finished. So we're probably not going to get that many in the last week, I would say, but I've been surprised actually at how many are still coming in.
Has Erica Stanford received her cookie yet?
No, not yet. So she's getting a cake. Yeah, so we sent David Seymour his cookie. I don't know if he's eaten it. Lots of people have asked me. I have no idea. But Erica is getting her cake either Monday or Tuesday, and that's going to be dropped off to her electorate office. And I think originally we were going to put 1,700 schools on it, but we've already passed 1,800 now. So that might be rejigged before she gets her cake.
I was when I heard the story, because I kind of tried to put myself in David Seymour's shoes of if somebody sent me a cookie asking me to eat my own words, would I eat the cookie? And I got to be honest, I think I would.
I would too.
I'm not going to eat a cookie. I don't.
And it's a good-looking cookie. Like, did you see the cookie?
In this economy.
Was it a mustache cookie?
It was, yes, it was. Yeah,
great New Zealand business, guys. This is not a paid advertisement, but best cookies in New Zealand. Mustache.
Yeah, it looked delicious. I was jealous. I thought we should have gotten a cookie, but
see now, if I was David Seymour, I would be sitting there going, "Okay, there's these leftist people that are sending me things. It might be poisoned, but if I eat it and it's poisoned, then that's somebody else I can vilify. So I'm going to eat it anyway."
Yeah.
I believe it was Magenta who did the drop off.
It was. Hi, Magenta.
So yeah, if anybody knows it was a good cookie, I'm going to assume that Magenta does because they were there with it. They would have got the crumbs or anything that was left over.
Magenta, I aspire to your commitment, to your committing to a bit. Putting in the work. Well done.
I love it. Yeah, right. So I'm waiting to see the cake because the cake maker who offered to make the cake is amazing. She made this amazing Palestinian flag cake, which was what attracted me when I saw it. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing it.
Don't show that to Nicola either. Oh, to Erica, she would not be a fan.
Neither of them.
Best lady for the job for sure.
All right, guys. So for those who saw the announcement on social media, you would have seen that this episode is basically a best of, worst of 2025, whatever you would like. It's basically a year in review. The panel decided on kind of news stories of great significance that we thought we would kind of revisit, analyze, and perhaps even a couple of stories that were underreported on. That we feel need revisiting because I have a sneaky suspicion that one of these stories are going to be extremely consequential in the year ahead. Paul, I might throw it to you, and we can go through the first story that we chose.
Sure. So I've actually got them all lined up in exactly the same way. So it comes down to which one you want to talk about. We could do disenfranchisement, we could do the regulatory standards bill, or we could do what's happened with Te Pāti Māori. Do you have a preference, anyone here? I mean, you're all experts on these things far more than I am, so I will bow to whatever it is you want to talk about.
Should we start with the RSB? We have Tanya here, certainly an authority on that. I think that is probably, and I don't think I'm being hyperbolic in saying, probably one of the most consequential policies that we've had in decades, going back to 1984, to the 1984 Rogernomic reforms. I see the Regulatory Standards Bill as a redefinition of democracy, and that the people who would usually represent us were the people that we elected. And there seems to be a shift with the RSB in that those parties are now represented by lobbying groups, or are members of lobbying groups, who certainly won't have the don't have the incentive to do the bidding of us, the people. I would love to hear your thoughts on it, Tanya, if you want to kind of speak more to it. What are your reflections on the RSB?
Well, I mean, for me, the RSB was my sort of pet project for this year for all of the reasons that you've just said. And just looking at these headlines actually is bringing back some memories, a little bit of trauma responses popping up. But
sorry.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. It's actually, for me anyway, right at the beginning of this year and through the sort of Christmas period when I first became aware of the RSB, which was while we were still all grappling with the Treaty Principles Bill. As soon as I sat down and read it, I realised immediately exactly what you said. This is a challenge to our constitutional framework, and this is bigger than all of the other pieces of legislation. And the thing that I was really concerned about, and the reason why I made it my own personal sort of mission for the year to try and do as much as I could to stop this piece of legislation, is that it changes the way all laws are made. It doesn't just, it's not just one piece of legislation affecting one area. It actually seeps its way into every single law, and we are now seeing the results of that. The RMA replacement bills that have just come out and will be making their way through Parliament over this summer period now are a reflection of this ideology that was in the Regulatory Standards Bill. You've got this idea of regulatory takings that must be somehow, basically councils have to pay for that, which comes directly from the Regulatory Standards Bill. So not only has it been passed against massive opposition, a record number of submissions, if you don't count the TPB, which was never going to be passed, and this is the second highest number of submissions ever received against a bill. But now we are seeing the fruits of this piece of legislation starting to trickle into other very significant pieces of legislation in a way that I find scary. And people that don't understand the long-term impacts of a piece of legislation like this, for me, I felt a very deep responsibility to highlight that. Looking at some of these headlines is actually making me smile. The one down the bottom there, which says that the tribunal accepted the urgency claim with 12,000 claimants signed on, which ended up being 17,000 by the time we actually got to hearing. For me, that was we hadn't done that before in the tribunal, in terms of we hadn't used a social media campaign and an organisation like Toitū Te Tiriti to essentially harness a group of people to bring a Waitangi tribunal claim in that way before. So this was groundbreaking in terms of strategy. And what I knew we had to create, because it was such a hard piece of legislation to explain to people, to get people interested in, had very technical language. You know, I knew from the beginning that we had to break it down to very simple ideas that people could understand, and we needed to get them hooked into it in some way. So for me, the entire strategy was dependent on Toitū's social media clout, essentially, and getting them to engage people to get interested in it, and then getting the tribunal, hopefully, fingers crossed, to grant us urgency so that it could be heard, and then getting a result for them to say, yes, it does breach Te Tiriti, yes, if it's passed, all of these things will breach Te Tiriti, and that is what hooked the media. Before that, you know, there was nothing going on in the media. It was getting shoved under the carpet, and we had zero chance of getting traction on it. So with the help of Toitū and all of the 17,000 people that signed up to say, yes, we will be claimants on this, we turned that into an avenue in the legal space, which then turned it into a media and then into a political story after all of that. And for me, people... a lot of people ask questions and say, oh, you know, they went against it even though we put, you know, all these hundreds of thousands of submissions, and, you know, what did we get out of it? And what we got out of it, which people forget now because they all know what it is now when everyone's engaged on it. But what we got out of it is all of the parties on the left to say, we will repeal it. And now half the parties on the right say,
I was going to ask you about that.
That's mind-boggling.
Yeah, that was my follow-up question, because there's the Winston Peters component to this story, and I don't know. Heaven forbid this right wing. I'll paint a scenario. Heaven forbid this coalition win the next election, and where does the RSP stand then? Because Winston Peters has vowed to repeal it. Does the RSP survive even if the right win the next election?
I don't think so. And that's the super interesting thing. Like for me, when, like, as annoying as it is, that, you know, they voted it in and then immediately almost turned around and said we would repeal it, and then even had National saying, well, we might do the same thing. For me, it just goes to show that right from the beginning, when we were saying this is a rubbish piece of legislation, it will have constitutional impacts, they all knew that. They all knew that from the beginning, and all they were doing was placating their coalition partner and doing what they agreed to do. But none of them ever believed in this bill, and none of them ever thought that it was a piece of legislation that should be passed. So for me, I think Winston, you know, the heat went on him once this passed from his own voters, not from, you know, anyone else. And that's why he's basically come out and went from, he didn't say it immediately that they would repeal, and I watched it because I've been watching him very carefully all year. Initially, he said they would campaign for changes to it, and then that very quickly changed into repeal it, and then very quickly followed by National saying, oh, we might do the same. So for me, I'm taking that as a win, man. Like, you know, we put so much effort and hundreds of hours, and so many people like rallied in their communities and got out there and did the hard yards against this piece of legislation. And I think it's a win for everyone that we didn't just get the left to say they'll repeal it. You know, basically half the right are saying it's a dead duck. It's gone by lunchtime.
I kind of want to throw it to the others here, because what I felt was, again, a scandal in and of itself, and it was something that Winston Peters' reasoning behind supporting the RSP came about. His reasoning was basically, yeah, we supported it because we stick to our coalition promises. And he said this in the same breath as that he said that he felt that the RSP was undemocratic. And it's like, you guys understand what he's saying here. He's saying that the integrity of our democracy could potentially die at the altar of things that Winston Peters promised David Seymour. I feel like his excuse certainly didn't pass the sniff test. I would have loved to have seen a lot more media scrutiny on that. Paul Barlow, Brie Elliott, what say you?
Brie, jump on in on this one.
Yeah, I think the whole thing highlights a real lack of standards that we hold for our politicians. Like the whole at the bottom right, they're the Anne Salmon victim of the day and the regulatory standards derangement syndrome. Like, we should be expecting a lot better from people that have been in positions of deputy prime minister of the entire country. That should just not be allowed. I think especially when we see consequences put in place for people in positions of lower power when they say specific things, I think the same standards need to be held in the House. And it's so annoying that they're not. I don't understand how you could possibly call out a dame in the country for being deranged and still have your job. I genuinely do not understand that. So I think, this whole situation highlighted that a lot for me. And the fact, obviously, that it was immediately after the Treaty Principles Bill, which people had to rally behind. That was a lot of effort from the community collectively. And then to have to push another kind of rally of activism against it, I think is just incredible. That Toitu and just in general, Tanya, people like you who put so much effort into educating people about this, I just think the consequence of that is great. Half of them want to repeal it. So good. They should.
Yeah, there is a real point of optimism that I would like to draw from what Bree just said. And fair warning, guys, there's not going to be a lot of optimistic moments in the stories that we're going to be about to cover. But fuck, did we just show how hard we are willing to fight, hey?
I feel like we just showed how united we are.
Yeah, we showed how united we are. We showed how fucking stubborn we are, and we're stubborn for the right fucking thing. If we are going to be stubborn, it should be stubborn against this shit. And yeah, like I've never been a Mr. Rah-Rah patriot kind of guy. I've got to say, between Hannah's moment in Parliament and the fucking pushback against the RSB and the TPS and all the other shit that this government is trying to serve, literally, if you're asking school kids during lunchtime, us kind of refusing to go quietly, it's good to know that if the shit hits the fan, we as a country can say they dragged us kicking and screaming.
Yeah.
Like, we'll have that.
And
see that quietly into that good night.
Yeah, and see, I am going to disagree with you about there being no hope in the show, Sean, because that is exactly what this entire year has been for me. Because I remember when we were at the beginning of the Regulatory Standards Bill plan, and it was just me and Edu and Rafatiroa, just the three of us. And I was saying to the boys, okay, here's the plan. I have no idea if this is going to work. I literally have no idea. I said, I don't know if we're going to be able to pull this off. And we had some stiff opposition. We had people saying it's never going to work. The tribunal won't get, we had so many things that could have gone wrong, but everything went right. And the reason why it went right is because of what you just said. New Zealanders, the majority of us, we don't like things that are unfair, and we don't like things that go against our sense of natural justice. And for me, just like the Treaty Principles Bill backlash showed, this was another example of that. And the thing that I really loved about it, and that I was very privileged to be in the thick of, was all of our volunteers all over the country giving up their spare time. This is mums and dads on the weekends out at league games with their little clipboards, signing people up to get submissions. You can't buy that level of commitment from people. You know what I mean? Like the TPU, they got billions of dollars and they've got all of these media outlets on lock, but do they have the hearts and minds of the people? No, they don't. And that's what that proved for me, is that all of these politicians who are basically on the take from, whoever it is, Atlas Group, BlackRock, you name it, whoever it is, they don't get that. And they never will, because everyday normal people have that sense of right and wrong. Despite the all of the tragic things that we are seeing happening and the demise of our democracy that we're witnessing in front of our own eyes, they don't get that. And for me, it wasn't just through this. What's happening right now with Te Rarangi Rangatira is exactly the same thing. It's just ordinary, everyday Kiwi mums and dads that are going, no, this isn't right. And we're not going to let this government take our children down a track that we don't agree with. And that's not a small thing. It's a massive thing. And that is what gives me hope.
Absolutely.
It is purely based. It's purely based on, like, we all have our own socioeconomic upbringings, and for the majority of New Zealand, we grew up in a place where Māori language and culture should be respected. We should be trying to work together. We should, like you said, that natural sense of justice. We all have that, and this is a perfect example of us using it.
Can I also kind of add this element, because Bree, you spoke about the kind of our shared history in this country, and what I don't think the right wings, particularly David Seymour, gets enough shit for is how, and again I'm going to use this word, unpatriotic he is. Think about it. I want, just imagine New Zealand for a moment. Imagine in New Zealand where David Seymour gets everything he wants, where Erica Stanford gets everything she wants. New Zealand where we have completely erased Māori culture from this country. Do you know what you have?
Australia.
England, the US, any other. Sorry, I missed that. What was?
We all just had the same vibe.
Yeah. We would be like every fucking other country, and I'm kind of at a place of I want to reappropriate an old right-wing cliche. Aotearoa, love it or leave it. This is who we fucking are. Like a New Zealand without Māori identity is fucking Australia. Go there. If you want that to be New Zealand, good. I've got good news. There's no shortage of countries like the one you're envisioning. Fuck off.
And I mean, and that's the key. Well, for me anyway, the letters and the comments and the hundreds and hundreds of messages that I've been getting over the past few weeks from the teachers and the principals and the parents. That is the thing that they all say is they value Māori culture and te reo Māori and learning about our history in this country. And I think you're right. The government, again, they can try all they like to dress up what they're doing and saying it's about this, it's about that. We all know what it's about. It's a very clear agenda that David Seymour has been given to implement in New Zealand. And you're right. So many people say in my comments that, this has got to be treason. How is this not treason, what they're trying to do?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's not the legal definition of it. But, everyone understands that it does have that flavour to it, because if we followed them to their logical conclusion, you're right, we're going to end up a whitewashed country that's just a vanilla cutout of every other colony that was established without any reference to how we got here and how we became a country. So for me, it's, this entire year's been a bit of a theme with different outlets of that, but the same common goal. And there's no, for me, it's so obvious why that is. I know that a lot of people don't see the strands that join all of that together, but for me, Te Tiriti is the great obstacle to so many different agendas that corporate interests, especially overseas corporate interests, have here in Aotearoa. And they know if they can get rid of it, it's open slabber. So they are funneling as much money and as much attacks towards Te Tiriti as they possibly can for that outcome, which is why I'm spending so much of my free time fighting them.
And that's why when Māori people say when the treaty benefits us, it also benefits you, that's what they mean, because it's benefiting us all.
There were two parties, keep in mind, a lot of these kind of ignorant, a lot of these people who are ignorant to our obligations to the treaty, a lot of people don't know what that even looks like. And if you were to break it down, at least in an educational context, you're going to find there's very little about our obligations that they would probably find offensive. There's one component, and that might be Māori greetings or something like that. And so I said in the last episode, we can't have nice things because of racism.
Very accurate.
I mean, I think for me, all you have to do to illustrate it to people is to just say to them, well, look at how much money they are spending on trying to get rid of it. If you want to know how protective it is and you want to know how valuable it is to Aotearoa as a whole, look at how much money they're spending on it. If it wasn't important and it wasn't protective in the way that we say it is, they wouldn't be throwing billions and billions of dollars at trying to get rid of it. But they know that essentially what Te Tiriti gives everyone, not just Māori, it's an automatic buffer in terms of you can't have all of these corporate interests come in and just run amok willy-nilly because of Te Tiriti, because Māori will always say no, and you must honour Te Tiriti. So we're an automatic like first hit, essentially, which is not a lovely space to be in, but it, like, you know what I mean? It protects the environment. It protects us from corporate takeover. It protects us from so many different things. And yes, we've got to take the first hit on that. But I feel like that is also a responsibility we have as tangata whenua. Like, if we're not going to fight for this country, who is? So I feel like we have to, all of us, come to a point where we realize that it is probably our most valuable weapon against this global agenda that everyone is seeing. It's not just us. And they know that. That's why they're targeting it. So yeah, for me, it's one of the things that constantly comes up with people that aren't, you know, that educated in terms of our history, that don't understand how much protection it provides. But for me, that's a generational thing that is shifting very clearly.
I feel like this is as good a time as any because I feel like a lot of this could potentially segue into maybe a fun portion of the show. Willis versus Richardson.
Willis versus
What are
Richardson.
you guys betting on?
Dumb versus dumber.
I'm going to point something out here that annoyed me. There was a piece in, I think it was RNZ, they called it Alien versus Predator, because that was something that another reporter had written about on Scoop. I coined that term for this fight 2 days before the pieces that they were referencing. They stole my line.
Do you know, actually, I feel like I've got a pretty kind of apt comparison here. I'll tell you what this reminds me of, and I'm about to come out of the closet as a die-hard wrestling fan. I've been a fan of WWF, WWE my entire life, going back to as a kid, and I'll tell you what this reminds me of. You see, back in 2002, WWF has bought WCW. You've got all of these great WCW talents coming in. One of those talents was the old dog, Hulk Hogan, returning to the ring to take on the Young Buck, the People's Champ, The Rock. This is what this reminds me of. And at the time, it was kind of like it's icon versus legend. For me, this is the kind of bad finance minister equivalent of that.
Timu.
We have the Ruth Richardson's in the Hulk Hogan role. She's from the early 90s. She did a fucking terrible job, an all-time terrible job as finance minister, almost putting Roger fucking Douglas to shame. But in that time, we have had a new warrior emerge. We have had everything horrible about Ruth Richardson, all the kind of ruthless, she has all the ruthless cuts of Ruth Richardson. But one thing you can't deny about Ruth, she did exactly what she said. She did cut spending. And I want to put I don't know if you guys saw the article today. Today is actually quite a significant day. Today was the day we were meant to get those Inter-Islander ferries. So you want to talk. If you want to, I'm sorry, with all due respect to Ruth Richardson, you were the worst finance minister in the history of New Zealand, but I don't think you've got anything on Nicola. Nicola is your
I'm going to take a counterpoint here. Yes, Nicola Willis is terrible. Yes, she led us into the worst recession we'd seen since Ruth Richardson. She has cut and slashed and still isn't good enough for the TPU, but Ruth Richardson was directly responsible for people dying from her budget. She put up market rents on state properties overnight, and that meant that people had to reduce use of things like power. And there was at least one case of a family who had to cut off their power and use candles that got knocked over in the night that killed 2 children.
Oh my goodness. Oh, geez.
So yes, Nicola Willis is terrible. Ruth Richardson killed people with her cuts, and she's never apologized for it.
You would have to kind of at least a little moment of introspection after that. A moment of introspection. Did she have any?
No, I did what I did for the country. You know,
I was too, so I can't remember. But that's I did not know that.
I was a teenager when she came to power, and I remember. That budget.
Yeah, I remember.
I was in a country community who was like they were national hard where I grew up, and it was what the fuck is going on? Like it was a shock to everybody, and they still went and voted for them afterwards.
Yeah, and see, this is the thing for me, because I remember it as a kid too, when this all came in, and this was the turning point for me as a kid, because I remember before this, we seemed to have, this land of milk and honey kind of feeling about New Zealand, and then when this happened, I remember thinking, something's happened, but I'm not sure what it is. Something bad's happened, and everything has never been the same since that happened. And for me, like this really is the battle for the worst finance minister of all time. That's how I see it. That they can dress it up whatever way they like, but that's what it really is. And for me, even this idea of the TPU coming after Willis, I'm suspicious about that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like for me, this is a rig to, for me, discredit Willis and throw her under the bus before the next election, so that whatever happens, and the people that have actually been making the decisions, and it was pointed out, I think, by one of our content creator friends, that she was always the patsy that they were going to throw under the bus before the election if everything tanked. And that is exactly what we are seeing now. So while the mainstream media is buying this hook, line, and sinker, as soon as I found out about this, I went, well, that's very convenient timing, isn't it? Yeah, let's throw Nicola under the bus. Yeah. So
that is an element I think we should touch on, because the difference here between Ruth and Nicola is that I'm listening to the Juggernaut podcast on Spotify, and they're covering the Bolger government. It's on it's from RNZ. It's a great podcast. Highly recommend it. One thing that you really you quickly find out is that Ruth Richardson was operating with a significant amount of discretion, a significant amount of autonomy, that Bolger, at the time, although the buck stops with him, he did have his misgivings about, and later expressed those very misgivings later on in his life. Nicola Willis, and it's interesting that you bring up that she's a scapegoat and a patsy, and I'd hate to defend her. I hate the feeling. It's giving me a rotten feeling in my stomach right now. But Nicola Willis is very much a product of Christopher Luxon's ideology. She is an arm of his. So any attempt to discredit Nicola, it's welcomed. I think it should be applied to the Prime Minister, because let's not forget, that's also one key difference between her and Ruth. So
yeah.
That media framing is actually really interesting on this one, because I have heard the other side. We know how bad Ruth Richardson is. Maybe this is to make people more open to accepting Nicola going into the next election, by vilifying Ruth and showing how bad she is on a stage compared to Nicola, it's not an argument that we should be having. I don't care if that makes sense. Like, they're both terrible finance ministers, and I don't give a shit which one's worse. I just want them both out of the way and never have to listen to any of them again. But the media has been played big time on this one, big time. There's been a whole bunch of talk that we saw in a couple of conferences over the last couple of days around how media reacts to the environment that we're in now, because there's a lot of to and fro, how much influence is there from right-wing groups, how much influence is there from Atlas-linked groups, what are MPs putting out there, and how the mainstream media frames things. Our media is very much sold by the narratives given to them by the right. That's how everything gets framed.
They don't read your articles.
Yeah.
No, they don't.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll read these articles and I'll be like, wow, I wonder how much drinks of water ChatGPT had to consume for this.
Yeah.
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 Yep, exactly. So these are some of the comments that have come through from a couple of the conferences last week from people who work in media or who study media. They worry about things like reactionary watchdogism, that you basically see something that's put out by a far-right organization like the TPU, and suddenly it's like, oh, we shouldn't trust this because it's from them, which is not a bad attitude to have as far as I'm concerned. But there's also a concern with some people that you call something far-right too often and it's going to lose its meaning, which totally also makes sense. You know, if you are constantly screaming wolf and there's no wolf, then you get a problem. But when there are wolves, which we've got, and people start becoming a little bit desensitized to it, it becomes really problematic. We also have an obsession with wokeness that's normalized from far-right rhetoric in the country. I'm sure we can all think of an example of somebody who here has been called woke.
I
don't know if I have been called, but I've been called an activist recently. I've been called disgusting.
Not helpful.
A few other wonderful adjectives.
Not helpful.
Not helpful.
Not helpful is my favorite.
Not woke yet, though.
Not helpful.
My favorite one was getting Timu Guy Williams. I got that.
I'll take that. That's a compliment. I'll take that. I'll take that.
Like you have those moments where, because like I like to think I'm pretty good with a comeback, and like then they'll catch it. You'll just catch one and you'll go, fuck, that's good. Damn, that's good.
Yeah.
I would take that as a compliment.
Yeah, I love Guy Williams.
Yeah, but
I agree with some of this though, because throughout this year I have watched particularly the rhetoric and the very careful framing that they've used for me particularly. And what I've noticed is they refuse to say my name. A lot of them, they won't even mention my name, even when it's thrown at them. They won't say my actual name. They won't call me a lawyer.
Never.
Hell or high water, they will not call me a lawyer. And the phraseology that they usually use, they try and push me into the activist or radical or you know, something of that sort of nature, rather than the woke, the Bree's in the woke, she's in the woke wagon. But, you know, it's very much playbook right wing. You know, okay, you're Māori, you must be an activist and a radical, so we'll just put you in that little category.
Like we spoke before how we classify everything as far right, and to the point that it's lost its meaning. I would argue the same thing has happened with the word woke. Everything, sushi's woke.
Everything I don't like is woke.
Yeah. And it's losing its effectiveness because of that as well, which I think is great. And it's becoming a joke that, you know, everything they say.
And sometimes they're going to say, now they're saying things that are good that everybody likes, but they try to get them to not like it by saying, well, that's woke. You know, these wokies want to keep the retirement age as is. And, they, you know, all these New Zealand first boomers are going, you can see their you can see their lead poisoned brains melting inside their heads.
Well, I mean, the great thing about the most recent comments, you know, saying that we're all activists, is that they were talking about, you know, 72% of the schools in New Zealand and the parents. And you know, that's just hilarious. And that's when it gets to the point where, you know, the general public of New Zealand are going, really? You're really calling us all activists to try and make us feel like we're doing something wrong?
I find it interesting that the word activist becomes something negative.
I was just thinking,
it gets painted in a certain way. And I know that there was a lot of research done sort of the late 2010s around the original foreshore and seabed hikois when they came up, and the way that was framed, particularly in media. The terms activist and radical popped up 9 times out of 10 in descriptors of Māori that were involved in those hikois. And so they become this sort of de facto negative statement that gets used to frame anybody who is Māori working in this field. But activism gets us so much. We wouldn't have a 40-hour work week without activism in place. We wouldn't have health and safety standards, weekends, all of it. There's a lot to be said for good, healthy activism.
Accessible healthcare and education for everybody.
All these. Yeah, it's funny because when I was doing my master's a couple of years ago, we did a big sort of round the world media study about different cultures and particularly focusing on colonial countries. And this is repeated everywhere. It's the classic right-wing playbook of othering the Indigenous people, which is the ironic part about it, and painting the Indigenous people, especially if they are speaking up against government action, as others, and trying to essentially demonize Indigenous people for insisting on their rights. And it's just something that's repeated over and over and over again all around the world. And one of the key sort of takeaways that I got from the analysis that came out of it is you don't try and undo the labels that they put on us. You just accept them and use them against them is the key way to go with it. And some people have said, well, how is activism even a bad thing? How is, being called activist against a government that has such clearly racist agendas a bad thing? So I take it as a compliment. I almost tagged Annette Sykes and said, look, I've got my patch now. I'm actually at the kids club.
Some of New Zealand's biggest achievements have only been achieved by activists. Like we have like Kate Shepherd.
Suffrage, anyone?
Like, sorry, what are you trying to say? It's bad.
Should we be feeling that Greenpeace were at fault when they had their ship blown up by the French because they were activists? It's not a term that they're using well at all.
Yeah. It does belie a lot of their attitudes towards progress because, yes, in the context of history, the activists are very rarely the bad guys. Very rarely.
Now, this was another interesting point that came up over the weekend. Nicky Hager, everybody should know his work. The stuff that he's done on Dirty Politics is legendary. And there are some people on the right who clearly don't understand what that book was saying. They seem to think that what the left do is dirty politics, while engaging with the people who are literally in the book to do the dirty politics that are literally in the book. They're not smart people. But he's got a really interesting point here as well about trying not to isolate and ignore people who might fall under that influence, like I just did when I said they weren't very smart people. I'm guilty of it myself. I'm really curious to hear your guys' opinion on this. Like, should we be building a big tent for everyone, or should we cut our losses and accept that there are always going to be some people who are dumb enough to think David Seymour is right?
No, I don't, and I really appreciate anybody who disagrees with me here. I would love to have my mind changed on this. Bottom line is, I do think there are just a contingent of people who are always going, let's put it this way, you can't win the hearts and minds of people who have neither a heart nor a mind to begin with. There are people like that who exist. And I think I feel like the time to kind of create that wide net, to kind of cast that big umbrella probably happened maybe around, I think the time probably would have been 2 years into the first Trump term. For me, that would have been it. I'm like, okay, we've had 2 years of this. Surely you guys aren't this indoctrinated. And who knew that in 2018, that was the good version of this story. And here we are in 2025. We're seeing American citizens pulled into SUVs, taken away and imprisoned without any due process. And everything that the quote-unquote establishment lives, people with the Trump derangement syndrome, everything that we were sounding the alarm on in 2016 because he was saying he would do it, turns out it's happening right now. And yet you are going to find people in this country who support him regardless. And there is just people who are going to fall into that cult of personality. And there is very much a theocratic element in politics. A lot of people don't treat politics as politics. They see it as an exercise in theocracy. So maybe this sounds defeatist. I would love to have my mind changed on it. I would love to be proved wrong on it. it's yet to happen. So sorry if that sounds doomsayer of me. I would love to hear other people's thoughts on it. Sorry for bringing the buzz down, guys.
No, I mean, I have a similar but slightly different approach, I suppose. For me, I believe that the majority of Aotearoa, and I think I've been proved right over the course of this year, do believe in justice and do believe in fairness, and we still have that core mentality within this country that we should all just be getting on with it, and people don't want to see the division, especially the racial division that has been stirred up by this particular government because of these overseas influences that are clearly present in our current coalition government. And for me, what is still there, and what the part I agree with you on, is that there will always be people who will never have their minds changed. There will always be people who sit in that very strong, and I'm going to use the term far right corner, who will never come around. But for me, what I see very clearly happening, and it's happened over the course of my lifetime, is that number's getting smaller and older. And the younger generation that is coming through now, who have had the benefit, and Bree's generation is a classic example of this, they've had the benefit of things that our generation didn't have. They've had, the influence of Te Reo Māori and Māori culture being taught in schools. That wasn't a guarantee even in my generation. And that new, younger generation, I know we all some of us older people who say, oh, these bloody millennials and the Gen Zs and all the rest of it. The thing I love about them is they think for themselves, and they're not caught up in all of this very old colonial mindset BS, which for me is the root of some of that, that hardcore group that are just never going to change. So for me, give it 5 years, give it 10 years, we're going to see a totally different representation of Aotearoa. And this government, for me, what they've done over this last 2 years has triggered so many of what I would call the base population to go, actually, nah, that's not okay. All of this divisive, racist stuff that we're seeing in America, we don't want that here. But the great litmus test, we've had all of these little dry runs so far. The great litmus test of that will be the next election.
Mm-hmm.
Bree, I would love to get your input on this, because Tanya brought up something that I think is quite interesting. And it's just been my observation of Gen Z. I'm not going to lie, my position here comes from my experience in education, working in an all-boys school for 7 or 8 years, and now working in a co-ed school. I am very optimistic for Gen Z women, for Gen Z girls, very much so. Boys, I wonder.
Yes.
And I think and I do think it has to do with the media that they may be consuming.
Yeah.
I remember being the day of Charlie Kirk's death. And I went into the staff room and I said, hey, have you guys seen this? Charlie Kirk passed away. And I'm politically dialed in a way that these, New Zealand teachers are not with American politics. And they were like, oh, who? And I had to explain who Charlie Kirk was. And then I went into my classroom, and I overhear from my shoulder an 11-year-old boy talking about how Charlie Kirk died.
Mm.
And I'm like, oh.
Yeah. I think this all links to the sociological idea of social consequence. And this was something I loved in my sociology class, and I really want to learn more about it. But social consequence, it's like as simple as back when gay marriage was illegal, when we shifted to make it legal, there was kind of the change in perception in the world, in the country at least, of, maybe this is okay, maybe we can accept this now, and like maybe we don't have to call people awful slurs and things. Like the mindset of what was bad changed into, hey, that's not a bad thing anymore. So I think we've been too tolerant in the way that we treat on our expectations of our leaders, but I also think we're just too tolerant of people that think bad things. There are a lot of people not saying those things necessarily bad, but yeah, if we all collectively agree that murder is a really bad thing. And so if someone came up to us and said, oh, well, I think it's good, we would socially shun that person. And the consequence of that for that person is they would go, I'm not going to get on with people if I believe this thing. Maybe I should rethink why I believe this thing. I think that's just social consequence. And so I think that I disagree with Nicky Hager here. Yeah.
We do respect him because he's done some, as Paul said, he's done exceptional work. And if you guys have an afternoon free, a lot of the work he did is chronicled on YouTube and documentaries. I can't remember the name of the documentary. I really wish I could. It was one of the I
just feel like if you feel like, if you just don't believe in something fundamentally, and you find that you're one of the only people that feel that, or you're getting socially excluded from things with your family or whatever because of that, like that should make you question it. That's how society works. That's just how social interaction is.
It's not a case. You bring up the murder example, and again, this is kind of, we're getting into kind of territory of, let's say, because a big kind of thing that people like to talk about these days of, oh well, a big problem is that one kind of I remember seeing one guy, like some American guy on TikTok, talking about how he can't find dates with any women, and it's like, I'm conservative, I don't mind dating liberal women, I'm cool with it. And it's like, bro, I'm assuming, to be fair, I am assuming, it's like, bro, chances are you are anti-choice. You think abortion is murder. The energy you're bringing to the table with a liberal woman is you think she's a murderer. Not only just a murderer, you think she kills babies. That's the energy you're bringing. And you there is this, you spoke about it before. Thank you. Yes, it is. It's called The Hollow Man, for anybody who's interested in that documentary. But if that is the energy you are bringing to the table with these quote unquote liberal woke women who won't date you, yeah, man, maybe it is time to be introspective. And Bree spoke about it before, social consequence. Mm-hmm. That is an example of it. We have become too tolerant of intolerance to the point that people feel a little too safe in their horrific opinions.
Yeah. And that for me is the big result of this entire term of the government, is that people like David Seymour in particular have started desensitizing the public to blatant racism and blatant, what Bree was talking about earlier, abusive behavior towards public figures and academics that was before this was unheard of in this country. We would never have seen politicians, and especially the Deputy Bloody Prime Minister, attacking academics in this way. But because he is now so blatant and so active and does all of these, very horrible things that were never accepted in our political sphere before this, everyone's become desensitized to it. And what you now see is some of the other politicians who, previously wouldn't have been, I suppose, so inclined to be outspoken in that way, copying and moving down that track. So, you're right. It's a slippery slope, and it is being influenced from America. Someone in the comments just made the observation that one of Charlie Kirk's staffers is, now in the country, and all of these things. You don't have to be a genius to see the links.
Yeah.
It's funny. And by the way, I see it as well. I see a lot of kind of, backbench right-wing politicians appropriating David Seymour's home. Guys, I would love it if this message got to those politicians. And let's put politics aside. That's bad strategy. David Seymour got 8% of the vote. Donald Trump, the difference, and it's true what they say. Self-awareness is the rarest of character traits. David Seymour is not a very self-aware person because I feel like he overplays his hand with these little Trumpisms. So what you like about Donald Trump? Man had charisma. Man has charisma. People like him. People.
And
David, you don't have that star quality. You don't.
You do not have the X factor.
Yeah. You couldn't David Seymour could not be parodied on Saturday Night Live. Nobody's doing a David Seymour impersonation. I
mean, you're right, though. I mean, that's the key, right? And so that's why, for me, this coming election is absolutely crucial, because we've now seen the full mask-off bad guy villain era from everyone in the coalition, right? And so the entire country is no longer under any illusions as to what they stand for and what they will do if they get another term. So for me now, this is the big test for us as a country, and it's going to be a testament to whether or not we truly do still have that core of justice and fairness that I was talking about earlier, to see whether or not everyone comes to the table and goes, no, you don't get another term if you're going to treat government like that. You don't get to drive this wedge if you're going to do that again.
This is a really good time to bring in the next topic.
Yes.
I know,
which is about disenfranchisement. So the government has worked this year to make sure people's votes don't count going into the next general election, which is disenfranchisement in its broadest sense. I am very curious to hear from everyone on this one about what do you think the outcome is going to be? Are we going to have a rigged election?
So when I said at the beginning of this episode that there is a story that I feel has been underreported on, one that I think that I'm sounding the alarm on now. I think this is going to be a major story come election time, and I'll explain why. In the last election, in the 2023 election, 100,000 people exercised their right to vote on election day. Those same 100,000 people will not be given the same right this coming election day. And heaven forbid, touch wood, the right wing do not win this coming election, but I don't think I'm out of line in predicting that if they do win this election, it's going to be really fucking close. It's going to be really, really close. And chances are that same day voting element would have made the difference, because when you look at the data of those 100,000 people who showed up on election day, most of them did vote for the left-leaning parties. So that's why I'm sounding the alarm now, because if I'll say it, if the right wing do win by a small margin this coming election day, in my mind, they have stolen this election. And I don't think I'm going to be the only one who feels this way.
Yeah, so I literally said that on TV when this first was announced, and accused them of the same thing. It's clear voter suppression. And we are already working on this, even though I said I wasn't going to do another campaign of crap that this government is doing. But I agree with you. This one has the potential to swing the election if it's going to be close, and it looks like it's going to be close, which is exactly what I said about 6 months ago. Then this does have the potential if, and that's a big if we aren't successful in communicating to those minorities that you just talked about in Māori and Pacifica and our lower socioeconomic demographics, who are the ones that enroll late and aren't able to engage in political processes because of the struggles that they're going through. They are the ones that will be disenfranchised by this particular law, and they know that. There's no two ways around it. They know what they're doing, and they obviously know, well, they suspect that it might be a close election. So this is another way, I suppose, of trying to stack the odds in their favour. But again, I'm the voice of hope here. We were already working on it, and I've already been approached by, can I say that out loud? I'm sure I can say that out loud. I've been approached by several large organisations who are also working on it, and are planning massive campaigns to make people aware of the changes, and to also do countrywide initiatives to drive voter registration before the cutoff date and make sure that people know about it. So there are things happening already. We can't stop them from changing the laws. So it's not one of those we must all go and make submissions. Sure, let's make submissions against a horrible bill. But this one is actually, okay, they're going to do it regardless. So we need to counter what they're doing, and we need to make sure that as many people as possible are enrolled, they're registered, and they know that there's going to be a 2-week cutoff date. This is why I've already started engaging our Australian voters as well. But before Christmas, that was completely because of this. I agree with you. It hasn't gotten the media traction that it probably deserves. But again, I think we've proven time and time again that if we want to hook the media into something, we have the ability to do it, especially when we work together, on an issue like this. And for me, it's about the timing of that. For me, after Christmas into the new year, it's election year. It's just a better sort of space for people to be in once they've had a break over Christmas. Everyone's exhausted from everything that's gone on this year. But once we're into the new year and it is election year, so many more people will engage with this. And the group that we started on Facebook, I think I actually don't know how many thousands are in there at the moment, but I think it's around 8,000 for this particular topic. So yeah, again, there's not much we can do in terms of stopping them doing it, but we can try and counter it.
One thing I would like to kind of remind people of is I really found the media's coverage extremely frustrating. Paul Goldsmith saying in the news, oh, well, to be fair, you should have already been enrolled to vote by election day. Here's the thing, Paul, I agree. And by the way, to anybody watching this, if you haven't enrolled to vote, vote. However, what you say, what you may think that they should have applied by now, I will agree. Our Bill of Rights does not die at the altar of what Paul Goldsmith thinks you should have done by now. That's not how our Bill of Rights work. And as Judith Collins herself acknowledged, it is a breach of the Bill of Rights. So once again, it's just another example of this government in a transformational way stomping on, everything that our country is meant to stand for. Just another strike at democracy. Bree, throw it to you.
Yeah, I just want to thank the Greens, mainly Greens and Labour MPs right now, who are really holding the line of integrity in government, because I feel like this kind of crap just really undermines Parliament, and it justifies why people don't vote. And I think the MPs that do hold that kind of integrity and don't make stupid decisions and say stupid things about people are really keeping that trust there at the moment. So yeah, I think what Tanya said is perfect. We need to be mobilizing people to vote, to be enrolled before any of this would impact them anyway. It's just so annoying. I'm just so over it, because this isn't helping people vote. Is this helping people vote? No.
That's very much the design of this. They don't want people to vote. We're
learning how to make policy right now in my class. And the first thing you're meant to do is identify an issue. So what's the issue here? Is it that people aren't voting in time? Okay, so that's the issue. How are we going to solve that? Let's ban more people from voting on the day. That is not how you make policy. That is just not fundamentally.
That's not the issue. The issue is
Mhm.
all of the late votes go to the left, and it swings
That's
1
the
to 2
problem.
seats
Yeah.
to the left. That's the
Yeah.
problem.
Yes.
How do we
That's the
fix that?
problem.
Let's stop them enrolling
Yeah,
2
let's
weeks
stop the
before.
left from
That's,
voting.
that's how the actual
And
policy
if you
discussion
can't
went.
give them any money
Yeah.
because they're on the benefit, and that benefit is means tested to their parents, they can't drive to the local polling station anyway.
Yes. Yep.
I
And
do
I
have
mean-
a question.
It's gross, isn't it?
I mean, you're right, though. It's. I mean, we laugh about it because it's so horrible, and you've got
Yeah.
to kind of laugh to, we are facing, for me anyway, some of the worst political corruption, there's no other word for it really, that we have seen in my lifetime. And that's the reason why I'm here. You know what I mean? Like, I could sit in my comfortable life quite easily and ignore all of this. And I would love to do that. But it's just, we are now at the point where this is not a joke anymore. This is literally our democracy under attack. And it doesn't get worse than stopping people from voting and stopping the poor people from voting. It's so blatant. So for me, you know, I can't in all good conscience sit here and watch that happen. I have to do something about it.
I know.
So,
I feel you.
Yeah.
Like,
and people like my age are seeing people like you guys and going, this isn't normal, and you guys are like, nah. And I asked my grandma, like, is this normal? She's like, no, it seems pretty crazy right now. I'm like, okay, we've got to do something then.
Tanya, you said before that it would be easy for you to just kind of resign yourself to your nice life. I got my start in this space by trying to promote my sci-fi novel.
And what's your book name?
Wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be
Promote
nice
it now.
I would love to make dance videos on TikTok.
4 people can read it. 4 people can read it instead of 3. It was called The Jennison Cavalry, and it was like a sci-fi. Think Men in Black meets Django Unchained. That was the pitch for it. That was the elevator pitch. But that was kind of like I entered into the TikTok space to kind of try and like show, hey, book talk kind of thing. And I was doing it while the country around me felt like it was on fire. And I'm like, okay, need to acknowledge this. And by the way, if you visit my TikTok and Facebook, I think you still see my bio, author Jennison Cavalry. So yeah, that's still there, even though probably no one knows me for that. But yeah.
I don't think your talents are being wasted, to be sure.
Yeah.
I think you found your lane without intentionally looking for it, as did I. You know, I had the same thing. I only started, you know, publicly talking about politics because of the Treaty Principles Bill, and stayed for the Regulatory Standards Bill, and now we're here. But just for your benefit, Bree, it's never been this bad in my lifetime, and I've done, you know, some fairly in-depth research into legal history, and it's never been this bad since the early days of colonization. So we are now gone full circle back around into the bad old days, and we are very quickly regressing into that.
That's the thing, because we're all learning about like 1840 and like, you know, what happened and it was mistranslated and all of this stuff. And I'm like, is this not like this is happening now?
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
I'm confused. And all of my lecturers are like, yeah, it's a real interesting time to study the history of New Zealand.
Someone from 1840 coming to today going, fucking hell, we're still doing this shit.
Well, and again, I will be the beacon of hope on this one. I do feel, though, that what we have seen, particularly over the course of this year, in terms of the pushback from the general public too, it's not just Māori who are pushing back. Like, there is such a sense of kotaitanga that's particularly happening right now with the schools, who have seen the value in having te tiriti as part of their governing structures, and seen the value of valuing Māori culture and te reo Māori within the education sector. And the teachers, for me in particular, the teachers are bloody heroes, man.
I know, they don't stop.
Because the teachers know, and that's the thing, and you know, we've got one in the room with us. But the thing about teachers is as if you've won the teachers over, and I think we're getting pretty close to being able to say at least a majority of the teachers are on the waka. That is such a key and decisive element within society that has flow-on effects for generations. So for me, that is looking forward to the next sort of 10, 20 years coming through. That's where my hope is. Yes, it's horrible right now. Yes, we are seeing, you know, sort of unprecedented degeneration into racist policies and things that we never thought we would see in New Zealand. But on the back of that, if we get them out next election, I think we're going to see something quite different. And I think we're going to see, I suppose, I wouldn't call it a backlash. I would call it more of a righting of the ship that of the New Zealand that we all thought we were buying into. And that's what I want to see come next election.
Oh my God, you're amazing. That was
Are you convinced to vote for me yet?
yeah, like that's so good. I feel inspired.
Well, then let's take a look at another issue for the election itself. We have one party at the moment that seems to be in a little bit of disarray. Te Pāti Māori is going through a moment. It has been probably the biggest political party fallout that we've seen in quite a while. Some very clear cracks happening there. This is probably a bit of a loaded question for you, Tanya, because I know you've done some work with Te Pāti Māori. I'm very curious to get your perspective as to how this came about, because I think for a lot of people it felt kind of sudden. They weren't really expecting it to happen. And I also realized you'd be speaking as somebody who was running for a different party. But I'm really curious to see what your perspective is on the build up to this and what you think the next step is for Te Pāti Māori. Is there a next step for them?
Wow, those are all very big questions. I mean, as you are aware, I have got connections. I have worked for Te Pāti Māori and with Te Pāti Māori in the past. I've also worked with Toitū Te Tiriti quite extensively throughout the year as well. I know all of the people involved in this sort of very sad for me, very sad and very public debate, which has taken place over the past few months. And what I can say is that I'm very sad about what's happened to Te Pāti Māori. I'm sad for a number of reasons, primarily because we're now in a position as Te Iwi Māori where there's so much confusion and so much anxiety leading into election year. And so for me, that's the biggest issue in terms of what's come out of all of this. I'm not going to comment on the particular issues themselves, just out of respect for all of these people who I have personal relationships with. But what I will say in terms of the future from here on out, for not just Te Pāti Māori, but for all of our Māori voters out there who are wondering, you know, we're heading into an election year, what the heck are we going to do? And I've been very conscious throughout this all playing out to not get involved in what's happening, because my primary responsibility has been and always will be to our people on the ground. And I know that through all of this, the thing that they have been screaming out for is we need to concentrate on this government. We need to concentrate on what they're doing. We need to concentrate on them getting out. So I've been very clear throughout all of this that I'm carrying on with all of the work that is overflowing in terms of responding to what this government is doing, and let all of this play out in whatever way it's going to play out. I'm in my lane, I'm eyes on, and I only have one goal, which is to get rid of this horrible government. However this works out and however all of the different parties come to their different places as to where they're going to be come 2026, what I would like to see, especially from Te Pāti Māori and from our MPs, who I have a lot of respect for all of the mahi that they have done, I would like to see some clear leadership going into the next election. And I would like to see, I think kotaitanga is probably a word that gets thrown around a lot, and we haven't really seen a heck of a lot of it in terms of what's been happening. But what I would really like to see is for our voters in particular to be able to have choice in terms of where they sit at the next election, and whether or not Te Pāti Māori is able to offer them that. I hope so. I hope there are some electorates where they can offer them some good candidates to vote for. But at the same time, I also personally can say that there will be other options for our people come to the next election. So that's where I'm sitting with it at the moment.
If I could also maybe add on to that, we spoke before about the hypothetical of a right-wing government winning this upcoming election. I want to paint a picture for everybody, including the listeners. One where the left win the upcoming election. One where, for the first time in the history of New Zealand, this will be true, a national coalition served one term in power. That's never happened before. That would be historic if they lost. That will happen if Te Pāti Māori sort themselves out. If Te Pāti Māori repair what has been broken. So I think if there are anybody within the Te Pāti Māori network who are listening, this is high stakes, guys. Whatever has gone on, your country needs you to reconcile, make things right. Yeah.
One of the things I find really fascinating around the media narrative here is quite often you'll get people going to Chippy going, so what do you think of what's happening in the Māori Party? And he'll say something that's generally more nuanced than the sound bites give him credit for. And it's usually along the lines of, look, I've got my own things to deal with at the moment. They're dealing with their things. I don't see exactly how they're going to work at the moment, but, I'm dealing with my shit. And the media goes, oh, he says bad things about them. It feels to me, as a middle-aged white guy, the media framing is very much around how the Pākehā-led parties in Parliament are seeing this particular party. It has this kind of colonial framing to it. But I also find it really fascinating that, there's this whole, Chippy, you're going to have to work with them. Why are you running, the potential candidates in the Māori seats when you might have to work with them? Nobody says anything like that to David Seymour and ACT and National. Why are you running as somebody in Epsom when you want to work with ACT? It feels like a double standard to me.
Yeah.
Oh, it's definitely a double standard. And there's so many of them that sort of play out within the Māori politics sort of sphere. And it's very much baiting in terms of trying to get Labour to just fully declare that they won't work with Te Pāti Māori. They've been trying it all year with Chippy. And some of the journalists just straight out say it to the MPs and try to get them to say, you won't work with Te Pāti Māori. But I think in terms of the framing, especially with the journalists that, have just run the story around and around and around and around, that is definitely serving the right in terms of, as much as they can make of the story, so much the better for the right, because they want that to not be an option, and they want that whole sort of left coalition to look unstable, to feel unstable, to not give it the sort of air of a government that could form, because the more that they do that, obviously it's damaging to the left. So that's what I see happening there.
On the kind of double standard in the media, I remember the week that the turmoil within Te Pāti Māori broke. The same week that happened, there was a sentencing update on Tim Jago, and that had been revisited in the media. You would have found that on the third page of the Herald. You would have found that if you scrolled all the way down on their website. And I can promise you that if Tim Jago was the president of Labour, Greens, or Te Pāti Māori, I said this in my TikTok video, it would have got an O.J. Simpson levels of coverage in this country.
Absolutely.
But do you know what did get O.J. Simpson levels of coverage in this country?
The drama in Te Pāti Māori.
Golriz.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Which happened at the same time. She got 4 times the amount of media coverage for what she did versus a sex offender getting convicted who was the president of a party.
Who did very, very bad things
to keep quiet.
To teenage boys. And yeah, you're absolutely right. So that happened at the same time. I had no idea. Fucking hell.
And I mean, so that's classic, right? That's classic in terms of you look at the number of headlines that are just sitting on this page about that versus, I don't know how many you would have been able to find about Tim Jago, but I don't think it would have been anywhere near as many as that.
So I know I didn't a quantitative analysis of it. Yeah. It was 4 times the amount of stories in 1 week. It was the week that he was sentenced and the week that the security guard from Pack and Save said, throw the book at Golriz. There was 4 times the number of stories on Golriz than there was on Jago.
And
Right.
like Tim Jago, we say the Tim Jago scandal. We should really call it the Tim Jago David Seymour scandal, because let's not forget, and again, I want to kind of paint a scenario for you where Tim Jago is in the Green Party, he's the president of the Green Party.
Oh,
Chloe Swarbrick has been made privy to the things that Tim Jago has done, and Chloe Swarbrick, instead of calling the police, calls the fucking employment lawyers. I want you to imagine what happens to Chloe Swarbrick in that scenario. Where would she
hung, drawn, and quartered is what would have happened. That's what would have happened. Yeah.
The double standard is so fucking glaring, and the fact that in the year of our Lord 2025, people still fucking fall for it pisses me off.
Well, we can go into that a little bit if you want. We've got some numbers and data here on why people keep falling for it.
Well, see, and this is the thing for me. Like I know how bad it is, and stepping into this space, I know that, you know, as a Māori and a female, you know, I'm up for, you know, basically lambs to the slaughter. Like that's just what it is. So for me, yes, it's horrible, and yes, it sucks, and yes, it's a double standard. But at the same time, you got to walk into it eyes open. Do you know what I mean? Like you have to hold yourself to standards that are way higher than everyone else if you're going to be a politician in this space. So for me, it's horrible. And yes, we need to focus on really disgusting behavior like what we've seen with the ACT Party's former president, which isn't getting anywhere near enough media coverage that it should have been getting. But at the same time, I'm one of those old school Māori people that think if you're going to lead, you need to lead in a way that is beyond scrutiny and is beyond reproach. And if you're not capable of doing that, then step aside, because there are so many others that will do it. So for me, that's where we're at in that whole scenario.
You've got to operate within the world as it is, not the way it.
Not what you would like it to be. Yeah, I'm an intense, practical person. I would love the world to be fair. I just know it's not. I would love to be able to step into politics without the fear of having death threats, but I know that's not going to happen. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where I know that the system is terrible and the system is rigged and it's double standards all day long. But you can't fix something if you don't step into the ring and call it out for what it is. And you can't also sort of sit on the sidelines and go, well, that sucks over there, if you're not willing to actually go and do something about it and take the hits. So for me, it was a hard decision to cross that line. It was a tough decision, and you all understand, because you all in your own ways have been subject to some of this behavior and some of this abuse that you get just by speaking out about politics. You're not even, you don't even have to be a politician to cop the crap. So for me, getting into this space that we are all in now, and you are all part of this space because you're getting written about and you're getting abuse from politicians.
We're getting mentions in what was it, in Substack articles that I think the only people who read that article was us.
We were the only ones who saw it and went, hey, that's not very fair.
Honestly, I was so chuffed. I sent a screenshot to my wife. I'm like, this is the company your husband is in.
You've made it when the right wing are trying to discredit you, right?
Yeah, I've made it. Like when I saw that, I'm like, hell yeah.
But I mean, all jokes aside, it is what it is. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, it's terrible. It's the reality that we live with in this country at the moment, of how our political system works, how the corruption within our political system is operating, how they attempt to discredit people who are trying to do good things within that system, and what they accuse us all of doing. Oh, by the way, did any of you actually get paid by Labour? Because I wasn't on that. I wasn't on that Christmas list.
Bold move from Labour.
When I heard that, I was like, wow.
Yeah. Bold move from Labour, paying people from other parties. Like, you're in the
That's what I loved about that story the most. I was like, okay, so I'm getting paid by Labour, but I'm a Green Party member. How does that work?
And by the way, I just want to point this out. Like, these people who are accusing us of being uplifted by legacy privilege, I'm sorry, taxpayers union much? You guys, like, you go on Sean Plunkett's YouTube page, you look at the view count of his videos, like, the view counts he gets, those videos I delete. I delete those videos. He'll and it's like, I'm not getting Sean Plunkett money. And if you want to talk about, these guys love to fucking talk about meritocracy this, meritocracy that. Lift yourself up by the bootstraps. Bitch, get on TikTok, find the part of your living room that gets good light, and see if you can get more analytics. And yeah, what perfect segue.
Perfect segue.
Absolutely perfect. So this is the results of 2 years worth of research into what our media has been presenting to us since this government got into power. And it shows some really clear trends. The TPU and Curia are the only groups out there that are non-political parties that deal with politics that have a regular syndicated media product, which is the Curia poll, which I'm sure we've all seen in the news, written up as an official poll with legitimate findings. That one product in particular allows them to corner close to 70% of all media coverage around politics that doesn't involve a political party directly. So something that's been led by a non-political party in the political sphere. We had quite a bit from Groundswell when the election first happened, and they've died down a little bit. The Free Speech Union has its spikes every time they bring over somebody who's controversial and they want to get into the paper. And Action Station, Renters United on the left, they have not quite, or just over 5% of their stories gets put out there. Like it is kind of scary how little influence the left has when you compare it to what the right is doing. The right is producing media that gets picked up by mainstream media, and it gets pushed really far. The other one to look at as well is Hobson's Pledge. And they're really fascinating because they buy controversy. They know buying ads on the front page of the Herald or buying billboards where they've deliberately gone out of their way to make somebody look bad or to screw up is going to get them free media coverage. But that still has them quite low in the rankings. So I found this all really fascinating stuff. You know, it's sitting down and going, wow, there's a lot more influence from one particular group on what our mainstream media is willing to cover without questioning it than there is on other groups out there.
Is Taxpayers Union the Elliott guy?
He's Hobson's Pledge.
Yeah, Reed Richardson is TPU.
God, they're all the same.
Hobson's Pledge.
They're on the same payroll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, can I just put this out there, and it is a point of optimism for me, is that the left have no fucking money. We've got no money. When you really look at the polling, when you look at the polling from this week, and it wasn't as good as the left would like it to be, but the fact that we have this little money behind us against this amount of money against us, and we're still fucking neck and neck, we're still winning elections, either shows how good our ideas are or how fucking shit their ideas are. And by the way, the nerve of these fucking guys to talk about people on welfare. Do you think Don Brash in the year of our Lord 2025 would be fucking relevant if it weren't for the millionaire backers he has behind him? Do you think we'd be hearing about Don Brash in the news? Do you think we would be hearing about Ruth fucking Richardson still? No fucking way. These people are these people, all of them, Sean Plunkett, Duncan Garner, these people, these unremarkable leeches are fucking, there are no bigger beneficiaries of legacy privilege than the group of people who are condemning welfare. They are the biggest recipients of welfare. Look at that fucking graph.
I watched Jacinda on Graham Norton, and she was saying, like, you know, I don't want to go back to politics. There's young people that can do that now, you know, leave it to the next generation. And it's just so funny watching all these old people just be so like entitled that they feel they should have such a say in what's going to like the future.
Yeah, I know. And like Taxpayers Union, like you call yourself a union, get the word, keep union out your fucking mouth, to quote the great poet Will Smith. Keep the word union out your fucking mouth.
My friends in the union are loving this right now.
You're the fucking tax avoiders union. You are doing everything in your fucking power to avoid paying tax. How fucking dare you call yourselves a taxpayers union? You don't get a seat at the table. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
But that's all very deliberate as well.
Oh, absolutely. And see, this is the thing that I really like about where we're sitting right now. As much of the doom and gloom and all of the horrible things that have happened, Sean's right. Despite all of that, we are still in the hunt for this election, and it's going to be way closer than these, dime a dozen bloody polls are saying it's going to be. They're trying to influence the public by putting these dodgy bloody polls out, as quickly as they can every month. And the general public who still watch the news, which is a very shrinking minority, by the way, sure, they might see a poll and go, oh, that's probably how things are. But Bree's generation, none of them watch the news. None of them read newspapers.
I do, but I'm a nerd.
They trust that Bree's watching the news. The Gen Z news watchers are going, oh, we'll leave it to Bree to watch the news and then we'll listen to Bree.
And then Bree will tell us on TikTok.
She'll break it down for us.
She'll break it down.
I'm the kid that has to do the group project for everyone.
Exactly. And so, like, the thing about this for me is that all of us who are in this space, in the social media space, who are providing the information to people, I think have been completely underestimated by the right. And they are starting to catch on to it now, which is why they're attacking us and why they're trying to undermine us, because they are catching on and they're like, oh shit, they got a lot of followers between the lot of them, and they're working together.
We've got charisma, baby.
And so they are starting to wake up to it, but I think they're too late is where I'm coming with it. We've already established presences in so many different spaces on social media with political content, and they're trying to play catch up now, and you can see it in all of the campaigns that have been running by National lately, the AI, even the TPU trying to launch this attack against Nicola Willis and doing it through AI on social media.
The campaign companies.
Yeah, you can see the very clear shift that they've done recently, and it's only been in the past few months, and I've been watching it going, oh yeah, they're onto us. But you're too late. I don't care. You're too late.
Mate, you guys watching it, Sean Ackland, not Auckland. ACKLAND.
Say it right.
I know. And for me, this election, particularly this upcoming election, it's going to be the first full-on social media war election. We haven't had one of those before. And this is going to be such a test for New Zealand as a whole, because mainstream media is dying. Like, let's just be honest about it. The younger generation do not get any of their news coverage from the mainstream. They get it off TikTok. They get it off Instagram. And the oldies, they get it off Facebook. Even the oldies are deserting mainstream media right now. And I didn't know that until I got forced into going back on Facebook, because all my aunties and nannies and kudos were like, we need to see what's going on, come back to Facebook. Now I get it. And social media itself is taking over the political framework. And I'm so glad whoever it was that convinced me to do this in the first place a year ago did that, because if I didn't, I don't think I would have a hope in hell of getting in at the next election, and I wouldn't have the support, and I wouldn't have the networks that we've established throughout the course of this year as well. So as much as I hate that graph, and as much as I'm pissed that they've got the money to do that, the one thing that we do have is the people power.
And the mana.
I'm going to say, the mana is a big part of it. Let me show you the next bit then, because this will show you a little bit about those ecosystems. So these are the outlet-specific saturation estimates. How often these organizations, the TPU and FSU in particular, are showing up on these organizations the most. So News Talk ZB and the platform, one is mainstream traditional talkback, the other is online broadcasting. That should be covered by the Broadcasting Standards Authority. Both of those have over 80% of their non-political party content provided by the TPU and FSU. That's huge. Like, that's a massive number that is specifically going to these people going, come and have a talk to us, and then going, yes, let's do that. They're very good at getting things lined up and out really fast. The Herald is actually a little bit lower. It's about that 60% mark of their content that's not provided by political parties, but is political, comes from the TPU or the FSU. Radio New Zealand is about 40%, but that's actually had a little bit of an increase in the last sort of 2 to 3 months. And Stuff is just over that 25 to 30% mark. And that's because Stuff is much more likely to not platform someone specifically just because they've said, hey, here's a press release and our polls, without going to somebody else and trying to get a critical look at it. Stuff is much more likely to platform the CTU, actually people like Craig Rennie, than they are to platform people from the Taxpayers Union and Free Speech Union. So these are the outlets that are working together to get out that hard right messaging.
I love this graph because the two at the top, News Talk ZB and the platform, are two that I have never given an interview to, and they keep asking, and every time they call, I say no, and that is why. So that's very validating for me. Thank you for that information.
I used to send these guys all stories. Like, how embarrassing. I used to send them stories that they'd never post, and then I was like, I'll just post them myself. Yeah. And then they go, great. I'm like, wow, okay. Well, thanks, I guess, for the audience.
Yeah. That was Bree's origin story.
That's my origin story.
I love the origin. This is great. We're all getting our origin stories out tonight. Yeah. and look, it's all led you to the right pathway.
Yeah. Yes. Hey, guys, like, to anybody watching, kind of, and like I thought about this the other day. If for those of you thinking, oh, you know, I don't want to do that thing that I've always wanted to do because what if I fail? Like, I failed with the author thing. As of now, I've failed with it, but I've ended up here. Like, try that thing. You're gonna end up in a place that's probably better than where you are now. Not to say that
I was going to be a famous singer a year ago.
Yeah. Bree was on the Traders. As I spoke about in the last episode, my Fuckboy Island audition tape got lost in the mail, I guess. So we all have our... That's a joke, by the way.
That's what makes it good, though. That's what makes me hopeful for the future, because people that are just from different parts of life, different experiences, are wanting to help and wanting to change the country. So it can't get worse, surely.
Yeah. I have a deep belief that we're all the Avengers, and we have been called together to unite against this evil government. And we're a ragtag bunch from all walks of life. But when the call went out, we all answered. That's
well, you know what? You know who's part of if we are the Avengers, do you know who's part of it? We haven't touched on it before during the RSB discussion. Sir Geoffrey Palmer. Who knew? Geoffrey Palmer. Yeah,
he's looking a little like Captain America at the end, where he hands over.
He's like Captain America at the end of Endgame.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, see, this is the thing. I remember when I was shopping around for experts, right? This was before anyone even had any interest in the RSB at all, and I did my darndest to get as many top legal experts that I could possibly get, and it was really hard, but I ended up getting some very amazing constitutional law experts, which was very helpful. When Sir Geoffrey came out, I honestly gave a bit of a hallelujah, because for me, to get someone of his caliber, not just as a constitutional law expert, but an ex-prime minister, someone who had championed us having a constitution for so long and had gone all the way around in terms of saying this is what will happen if we don't do this, and now it's playing out. Like, that was a cherry on the top of that cake for me, because no longer was I felt like Chicken Little for so long, going, the sky is falling. And so to have someone of his caliber come out and go, no, she's
validate
right, the sky is falling. Yeah, it was just amazing. So that's what I mean, though, by I just have this very deep belief that good will triumph over evil in the end, and we are on the good side. That's the good part about it. We're on the good side. It's not going to be an easy fight, and we're going to have to chuck everything we have at it. But at the end of the day, I do believe in the majority of our country being good, fair people. And that is the one thing that's going to get us through this rubbish. And it's going to be ugly. We're going to have all of these billions of dollars and this media outlets stacked against us. But that's why the work that all of you do is so important. You are, what do we call it? What's our line, Brie? How does it go?
Oh, we are the new fourth estate.
There we go.
We were like, why don't we call ourselves that?
That's a constitutional role, you know what I mean? Like that is one of the checks and balances on power in a democracy, is the fourth estate. And the fact that our fourth estate over here is already sold out, that's why we need content creators. And I've seen people in the comments section saying, you know, we watch all of you because we trust you. And that's it. They've lost trust in mainstream media because they know it's been rigged. They know it's been bought. They know it's corrupt. And they know that we're all sitting here in our living rooms in our spare time.
In my own.
It's always in the parents' basement.
Parents' basement. But you know what I mean? There's something so wholesome and so bloody Kiwi about that. You know what I mean? Like,
in my daughter's playroom.
Exactly.
So,
no shoes
I'm
on.
in a room full of toys, but it is my playroom.
Exactly. But it's so number 8 wired of us. You know what I mean? Like, we're seeing the demise of our mainstream media, and we're all stepping up in our various spaces to fill that very important constitutional bloody gap in our democracy. It's an amazing thing.
Yeah. It's like that scene of the Avengers, like Loki going, well, you know, it's like if this is the Avengers, it's like Loki saying, we have an RSP. Well, we've got a Palmer. We've got
not a great plan. So final graph I've got here, final information sheet I've got here on this imbalance with the TPU. If we take a look at some other actual unions that we've got, the Council of Trade Unions and ETU and the PSA working together, compared to how many stories were led by them versus stories that were led by information given out by the TPU, we're looking at the TPU having 6 times the number of stories to Action Station, 5 times the number of stories to CTU, and 10 times the number of stories to the PSA. That's our Teachers Association. That's 1,000% advantage on narrative control that the TPU has over these organizations, which is one really important reason why people need to be really aware of what the media is putting out there and what the sources are coming in from that media.
And they should feel ashamed. They should feel absolutely ashamed by these statistics. That's so embarrassing. That is so embarrassing.
Yeah, thank you, Brie. You're absolutely right. It is embarrassing. If I saw that stat, if I saw the amount of money I've spent on this initiative and see that we're still fucking losing to a bunch of people in their parents' basement or their daughter's playroom, it is fucking embarrassing. Guys, I hope you're embarrassed. That feeling of shame that I don't doubt you don't have, because if you had shame, you wouldn't be doing this fucking shit.
Yep. Can I say, I did one media paper, and all of the journalists that we got to hear from were very not nice about online content creators and about how we just read their stories and then make it into, we get all the views for just saying their stories. Well, no, we just see, everyone just sees through your shit. That's the truth of it. Sorry.
And I mean, that's the funny part about it, right? It's you know, the reason why our content gets traction is because it's better. Like it's not even, you know what I mean? Like, we're doing this literally in our spare time, on top of our regular jobs, on top of full-time parenting for some of us as well. You know what I mean? It is embarrassing. Sean's right. You know, that some of these agencies are funded up the wazoo to do what they're doing and getting this much play, but still they're still trying to come after us because we get more traction with the actual people. We don't have,
and then they copy us. They make their own little explainer videos.
They're all copying us right now, baby, and that's the fun thing.
I don't have any hard evidence. I want to make that clear, and I'm not going to say who the organization is, but I do see them post videos, and I'm like,
That's the same one that said that we copied them.
Yeah, that looks familiar.
Was
Like
this
the story
one that
is
you bumped into in Altea Square?
Sorry?
Was that the same one that you bumped into in Altea Square?
No comment.
Okay. I thought you were talking about me, and I was getting really concerned.
Yeah.
It was really worrying.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay,
I take it as a compliment, you know what I mean? Like especially the attacks that have been coming lately against all of us and against our other content creator friends, because for me, that's a clear sign that somewhere in an Atlas backroom, they've identified that we're having an impact. So the louder that those kind of attacks and the more common that they get, it means we are having an effect and we are a threat to their agenda. So you should all be very proud of yourselves for having that impact on the shoestring budget.
Yeah.
Which is zero. I don't actually have a budget. My budget is zero.
No. Yeah. Do it as you go. Yeah. Exactly.
My budget is how much does microphone cost?
Yeah, see, I'm lucky. I do this kind of thing for work with clients. So they pay for everything, and please don't tell them. They don't need to know. None of them are political, so I'm not like breaking any rules.
You just announce it on a podcast.
I can edit it. It's fine. No worries. I have one last question for you all. This is our sticky question. This is a really tough one, and I'm really curious to get your feedback on it. This has been sent in over the last couple of weeks, so I'll read it out for people who listen to this in the podcast version. I'm a trans man who has been lucky to live my life with support from my family for years, but they've told me recently they plan to vote for New Zealand First next year because all the other parties are just the wings on the same bird. It's the first sign I've seen that they're slipping down a rabbit hole, which is scary by itself, but that party in particular has been so fucking evil towards trans people, vilifying us, actively promoting hatred, and laughing at the cruelty of hurting trans kids. I'm not sure how to make them see that a vote for Winston feels like a direct attack on me. Do you have any advice on how to bring this up with them?
Oh, that is a tricky one. I'll throw it to the others. I do have maybe a response to it, but I'm probably more curious to hear from the rest of the panel on this.
I'm happy to. Oh, you go for it. You go for it.
Oh, I was just gonna say this is such it's a sad question, and I'm just gonna be straight up. I had a best friend at high school who ended up being trans and was basically bullied, and he won't mind me saying this because he follows me, and I got into fights, like literal fights, sticking up for my friend over the years, and it's such a horrible part of our society, and I feel really just so much aroha for this person. I don't know if this person is watching, but what I would say to you in terms of advice with your family, it is a scary time, and it's a scary thing to feel that amount of rejection, which I know you've probably been through it your entire life, and I've watched someone that I cared about go through a lot of that through the teenage years, which is probably one of the hardest things to watch. So for me, I would try and I suppose let your parents and your family know how you feel about it in a way that's non-threatening for you, which is the main thing, so that you're safe. And if you have people in your life that support you and accept you and love you for who you are, I would talk to them about it as well. There's people that you can draw on for support and having that conversation with them as well. So I would try and do some of that. If you've got friends, like I was lucky enough to be friends with someone who was going through this, and I value that experience because for me, it taught me a lot. It taught me about not just empathy for people that are being vilified and are being abused, because it was abuse, but it also taught me a lot about myself. You know, I'm the kind of person that can't deal with injustice, and I can't deal with people being abused just because of who they are, and it's something that's just so deeply rooted in me. I don't know where it comes from. You know, I put myself into harm's way to stop people from doing stuff like that. So there are people like that out there. So if you feel like your family may be going down a pathway that you think is going to be damaging for you, find those people in your life and see if they can help you to have that conversation with them.
Yes. I actually want to talk to this as well, because I have very close family of mine that also support this party. And I think obviously it's different. I'm not a trans man. But there is a point where your safety does come first. And if you are feeling like these people are the kinds of people that would hurt you or make you feel in danger or anything like that, it is actually okay to cut them off. I've done the exact same thing. You don't have to be around people that make you feel unsafe. And I think it's also important to remind our families, and I found this works quite a lot. Well, not works, but can spark good conversation, is reminding them that the party that you're looking at now is not the same party from 10 years ago. It's probably got a bunch of new MPs that you've never even heard of before. I often get comments like, oh, the Greens, back in the 80s. And I'm like, why are you talking about the 80s? The entire party is completely different now. So I think just reminding them that maybe the people that the parties they are villainizing aren't necessarily the same parties that they're thinking of in their heads. Yeah, it's a really hard situation. I'm sorry that you're put in it. And don't forget to vote yourself and make sure your friends vote, because hopefully you can outvote them.
Yeah, I would like to echo that. I'm very, very sorry that you're going through this. I suppose it comes down to two questions. The first question is for you, and that is to kind of tag on from what Bree just said. What do you want to get out of this? That's the first question. Do you think your family are savable? Are they at a point where they are still willing to listen? Are they at a point where they're still willing to have their mind changed? Answer truthfully. And if the answer is yes, that leads to the second question, and it is towards them. New Zealand First are extreme in their beliefs in regards to trans ideology. As far as New Zealand First are concerned, you are akin to you're akin to like a pervert or whatever. You are bottom of the societal. You are scourge to them, and New Zealand First have made that extremely clear. So for your parents, I don't know if it's their parents, but for your family to be considering voting for these people who not only deny your existence, but are an open opposition to your very existence, I feel like you should ask yourself, at what point will it be too far? Because where is your red line for New Zealand First? Because, and this is me speaking as you, in my mind, they have more than crossed it. I want to know at what point will you say that's too far? And be prepared for their answer, and let that answer inform the first question. Is this something that, what do you hope to get out of this? And it goes back to that point before of, are they savable? Can they be reached? I'm really sorry you're going through this. This is a really hard situation. Yeah.
There's a good comment in here in the chat that I think is also a useful tool that could potentially be used, which is to post and promote party policies that support your views and use them to create opportunities for discussion. That's a really good point, and you can find some of those in the Green Party just quietly.
That's my mum.
Oh, there we go.
That's my mum. She's my biggest fan. I tell her she's allowed to comment on stuff because you know what? She lives in this country. So.
Yep, we have free speech.
What a job, Mum. Brilliant suggestion. It's true though, like this is another thing that I've noticed with Te Rārangi Rangatira, the schools list, is the conversations that it has generated in how many different forums and classrooms and school board of trustee meetings and parents talking to teachers. Seriously, like the number of messages I've gotten about parents going to teachers, going to boards of trustees talking to principals. You know what I mean? Like that is just insane. But that's how politics works. You know, people think of politics as this very removed sort of thing that's happening to other people and it's out there, but this is politics.
Yeah.
You know, a kid that's scared about what his family is doing with their vote because it directly affects them. This is politics. It affects all of us. And for me, you know, I feel this deep sense of responsibility to people like this who feel not just left out, but scared, like literally scared for their safety. And rightly so. You know, we've seen the vitriol that has been generated by New Zealand First, and I would be scared too if I was in their shoes. And I think for me anyway, that's why, yes, it's an ugly place to step into. Yes, there's a lot of abuse that all of us have to face in this space, but we have to do it. I don't want to live in a country where it's okay to make people feel scared for their safety just because of who they are. It's wrong. And I will never be convinced otherwise that it's not wrong. So, you know, if we're not going to stand up for it, who is? And I don't want my son growing up in a country like that either. And, you know, that's for me, bottom line. Like, my son is everything. He is the reason I do all of this. Never mind, you know, the 80-year-olds and the John Brashes of the universe that are on their way out and trying to influence how this country is in the next generation. You know, this is our watch. We are responsible for what this country looks like for our children. And I don't want a country where people are scared for their safety just for being who they are.
All right, one last question for you, because we've been doing this almost 2 hours, so we should probably get to a point where we wrap this up. What are your plans for Christmas?
I'm hosting Christmas for my family this year. I've been taking the lead on that the last few years. Me and my partner have taken the lead, mainly because we have like a good backyard area for a barbecue. And I normally like to dress up. I like to be an elf, or I always dressed up. So I might be an elf this year. I think last year I was Santa Claus, but I think this year I'll be an elf. Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Being AI though, Brie, can't you go as anything you want?
No, it has to be Christmas themed.
Okay.
You can be the Grinch, or yeah, there's not many options really. But anyone else?
Nothing exciting. Going to the in-laws. Got my daughter and niece. It's their first Christmas that they're kind of probably going to be old enough to appreciate it. So it'll be a nice time.
Yeah, I'm going to be doing work on, can I say that? I can say that. I'm going to be working on my campaign. And I'm going to be doing a lot of preparing for next year, probably in between eating and seeing the whānau as well. So I'll be going home. But yeah, next year's going to be a massive, massive year. I thought this year was massive. Next year's going to be even more massive. So I'm going to try and have as much rest as possible. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of planning going on in my holidays.
I love it. I'm going to be going around to old relatives and making sure that I've hit unfollow on all those right-wing groups that they've put on their Facebook page.
Take their phone and do it. They won't know how to have them back.
Every time I'm here, ask me to run an update. Let me just do that for you now.
Yeah, here we go. Okay, yeah. Rebooted for you. There we go.
Yeah, all sort of. No, I don't know where your stories have gone. So strange.
Probably as good a time as any to end it. Geez, guys, 2 hours just went by so quick, and I hope it was the same for everybody who was listening. I'd like to thank Tanya Waikato for joining us. I'd like to thank Paul and Brie, and I would like to thank everybody in the chat who contributed to the show, and anybody who might be listening tomorrow on their car ride to work. So thank you so much, everybody, for listening. I'll throw it to anybody else, and nobody else has.
I'm just going to say, hey, everyone, have a fantastic Christmas and stay safe over the holidays.
Awesome.
Yeah,
All right.
me too. Merry Christmas, everyone. And thank you so much, everybody in the chat, everybody that's watched us on BHN this year, and to all of you, my fellow comrades in the Avengers.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Make sure that you all have a good break over the Christmas period and recharge your batteries, because next year is the big dance, baby. We are going all the way to the election, and we need all of you in top form. So
Hold up your business, guys. Yeah.
Love it. All right.
All
Kia
right.
kaha, everyone.